Hi, Nikki.
Hi, hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited for this talk. It's great. I'm sure that everybody who will join will really enjoy it as much as I did enjoy talking to you in these days.
Yeah.
But let me introduce this live to everybody who's logging in. This live is on online communities and mental health, and it's part of the European Mental Health Week 2023. The European Mental Health Week is a week-long campaign that Mental Health Europe created. Now we are at the fourth edition, and we have in-person events, we have online events, and we have a campaign that is shared from people and organizations all over Europe. And this makes us very, very happy. The topic of this year is mentally healthy communities. And so we want to focus on how different communities, whether that is school, family, work, other types of communities, and online communities as well, can support our mental health and what they need to truly do so. So to have all the resources they really need for this. Online environments, particularly, can be like a great source of entertainment, of social support and learning for many people, but they can also expose us to risks for our mental health. And I'm talking about cyberbullying, cyberstalking, and also unrealistic beauty standards and toxic role models that can really impact someone's mental health. And as Mental Health Europe, we are working a lot on this topic. We recently published a report called Mental Health in the Digital Age, and we're also working with Dove on an online campaign called Stand Up for Kids Online Safety. And you can see the public petition on our website, and you can sign and support this petition by Dove. But let's come to us now. We have with us Nikki Mattocks. They are 26 years old, LGBTQ plus disabled activist and lived experience professional based in the UK. And this is all from me now. And I will leave the floor to you, Nikki, to introduce yourself to our public, who you are, what you do. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Awesome. So I'm Nikki. I'm 26, as you mentioned, Margie. I work with organisations and charities to ensure that lived experience is at the heart of policy and services like mental health services and events. And I do this representing my own lived experience, which includes like diagnoses that I received from quite young. So I I live with multiple mental health conditions, and I used to really see those in line with the medical model of mental health, but now I kind of view my issues as more in the social model of mental health, kind of seeing them as a thing in the wider environment rather than an issue that's wrong with me necessarily. I also like Ducks, Diet Coke and Demi Lovato. And a fun fact about me, I have 16 tattoos, so I just thought I'd introduce myself that way. And ultimately, the reason why I do what I do, and the reason I'm doing this live, and the reason that I work with different organisations is because my dream in general is to make the world a better place than what I found it as. And I really want to make communities safer for people with mental health issues, including online communities, which is why I'm here today.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you very much. And I really, really hope that this Instagram Live will be, like a small but important step towards your goal, because that is really important to us as well. I just want to remind everybody, you can ask questions. We're going to answer to the questions at the end of the live. There is a speech bubble with a question mark in the bottom right of your screen. You can ask questions there, and I'm going to be able to see them at the end, and we will we'll get through them as well. But let's get started with our actual conversations. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience on mental health and online communities? Was that a positive experience, a negative experience, and how that changed through the years?
Yeah, so I've been using social media since I was about 10 years old. When I feel old now, like it was so long ago, but I've been using them since I was about 10 years old. And I started with Facebook, and I started basically just using Facebook to play games. There was this game called Farmville that I used to play.
Of course.
Yeah. So I used to play that. But then it gradually got more. I kind of became more critical of what I was doing because I wanted more friends on my friends list, and I noticed that everyone else had more than 100, and I didn't have more than 100. I mean, what 10-year-old would have more than 100 friends? But still, I was kind of overthinking it, and I I became I became quite upset, and I asked my mum to like let me add her friends and stuff, and it wasn't the best place to be. I mean, being online can be a good distraction, definitely, and it was at the time because I was being bullied in person at school and in like my neighborhood and stuff, and going online at that point was a real escape for me, and it was really helpful to have like an online place where it was only people that actually wanted to be friends with me. But then I gradually got more into social media as time went on. I started using Twitter and yeah, mainly Twitter and Facebook. But then as time went on and I became maybe a bit older, like about 14, 15, I was in high school and I started getting cyberbullied sometimes. People would call me fat or ugly and stuff like that, and that really did affect my mental health. And even though I think it was because the privacy settings, they wasn't as tight back then, so people would just they would just comment on my pictures and say that I looked fat, and that made me really down. And then so that had a negative impact on my mental health. But then again, as I've grown older, I've started using different social medias and different online communities, like different forums. There's one in the UK called the Big White Wall, and you can share anonymously on there. And I remember doing that when I was a bit younger, and that was really helpful because when you're online, it's almost like you can be your freest self, and you can just feel free to say whatever you want to say because it's online. No one sees who you are, and sometimes you can be anonymous.
Yeah.
which I think's helpful. It's a blessing and a curse, really. But yeah, over the years I've been part of different online communities such as Evolve and Chrysalis and Euro Youth Mental Health, and there's this really cool app called Finch where you do self-care, and they have like a Discord server, and yeah, I find that a really good place to be. I think online communities, in my experience, they've been a good place to share how I feel and what's going on for me, but then it depends on the community on how safe it is. I think usually when it's on Discord, there's moderators and stuff, and I think moderators are really important to online communities because when I've shared in the past things that have been happening for me, it's important that you don't just kind of speak into a void. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I just think it has definitely been a blessing and a curse for me. I've experienced cyberbullying, which made the online community a lot harder. But then at the same time, I've also experienced the other end of it where it's been an amazing place to be, and I've met some really good friends online, and it's been friends that I'll probably keep for life. So it's definitely a blessing and a curse. And I think it's important to find the right community for you.
If you think about these two different experiences in terms of how the online space was structured, you already mentioned having moderators is something very important. What other elements, if that come to your mind, where the different, like created a difference between the two spaces? One that was safe or like safer, and one that instead like exposed you to cyberbullying. And then again, I'm like extremely sorry that you went through this experience, because I think nobody really should, and we all should learn better, and we all should do better when it comes to these spaces.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that's made online communities safer for me is having people I actually know in real life and that are my friends, and not just kind of being in an online group where you literally don't know anyone, like you've never met anyone. I think it's important to know some of the people that you're in the community with, so that you kind of have some trust in it. I think moderators are really important, and also trigger warnings are really important, because it's really difficult if you're online and you're scrolling through your feed and you see something that triggers you, and it could be anything from food to self-harm to a filtered image, and that could really set off your mental health. And it could be, that's what I've experienced anyway, like going through my feed and stuff, and I find that when people are sharing things that are quite personal, I think it's important to include not necessarily trigger warnings, but more content warnings, because if you're talking about food, that could trigger someone. If you're talking about, I don't know, like exercise, whatever, it can make people feel uncomfortable. And I think it's important to be mindful that everyone has different triggers. Everyone is different. Everyone's got their own experiences. And it's really important to be mindful that just because you experience something in a certain way, it doesn't mean other people will. So I think making sure that that there's group rules. If it's like an online community, having some rules in place are really important. And when I directed Evolve, which was an online peer support group towards the end, we had a Discord server, and I can't even remember what I was saying now, sorry. But yeah, we had a Discord server.
Evolve.
Yes, we had a Discord server, and we made sure that it was a safe place by making sure we met up in person sometimes, making sure that we had content warnings. And when you're on Discord, you can actually black out the triggering content so that people can click on it if they feel able to. But I think it's important to have, oh yes, group rules, yes. It's important to have some like expectations from everyone that's in the group so that you can keep everyone safe. I think having rules in place where people know what's expected of them, like not to swear at people, or not to talk too much about controversial or sensitive topics like religion and stuff like that, or if they are, then to just be respectful and mindful to other people's experiences. And yeah, stuff like that is just really important to make sure that online communities, especially when they're mental health communities, are safe and respectful of everyone's experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm also on Discord as well. So, and I think that actually when it comes to moderating, it's quite a good platform. And what you mentioned, I think it's very important, but at the same time, we're talking about what can we do to make this community safer. And there are other ideas that sometimes come through also, for instance, that we talked about in our report, which is training to like strengthen these kind of skills, how to use the online space responsibly for yourself, for others, trainings as well for care, for caregivers to promote, to make sure that their adolescents and young people have the possibility to develop the skills to understand what is a safe space online, how do I recognize it, how do I move in it, and of course as well like technological tools to filter out content as you mentioned. But at the same time, there is a responsibility that we're putting on the individual, and we're forgetting that all these online spaces are online because they're actually built in a platform. And so when we talk about targeted advertising on, involuntary tracking or algorithmic created content that causes harm, that responsibility is kind of beyond the individual. And so I'd like to know what's your take on it, because you were able to be part of a community, to moderate a community. So I feel like you experienced the limitations that the technical tool itself has, and what has been your experience with this kind of content. So how the platform promotes or doesn't promote a good mental health.
Yeah, I think different platforms have different kind of levels of protection. So, for example, Twitter at the moment is quite toxic, and it can be a difficult place to be. There are definitely different communities that speak up on different things, and I think there's definitely limitations there with targeted advertising, because even for myself, like I live with body dysmorphic disorder and an eating disorder. And I find that a lot of the time, especially, it's weird, like especially when I've been talking on the phone or something more about food or whatever it is, I find that I get more targeted ads about weight loss and exercise and stuff like that. And I find that really difficult, like really triggering. And I think the platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they do have a responsibility, and it's ethical, and it's really important that they take note of the fact that people can get worse mental health because of the targeted advertising. And I think that it's important that they do something to make sure that you can change it. And I don't think it's ethical of them to allow targeted advertising to people so young, especially because there are people are getting younger and younger using social media. So I think it's really important that we do more as a society to protect the young people that are using these online communities, because I don't think, like you said, I don't think there's enough education on social media for the caregivers as well. I think it's important to know what a safe space online should look like, and it should be respectful. It should be kind. You have a right to feel safe and comfortable in any online community you're in. You should never feel pressured. You should never feel like you're being bullied. And I think we have that responsibility as individuals to not be harsh, to not be horrible to other people, but also I think the main responsibility lies with the social media platforms and whoever controls the internet to basically make it safer, because there's not enough being done at the moment. There's a lot of people that experience cyberbullying, and it has real damaging effects. Like there's been cases in the UK and across Europe where young people have taken their lives due to cyberbullying. And I think it's really important that we don't hide away from these topics, because the more we keep going the way we are, the more people are going to suffer. And I think it's really important that we protect young people, especially from the dangers of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't mention another, I think, platform that we should at least mention, that it's TikTok, which has, in terms of algorithm, it's one, it really, really scares me, because sometimes you end up in your bubble, but that can be positive or negative. And like really, really young kids are on that platform, and it is scary. It's scary for me, and I'm 27. So, can you imagine for like a 10 years old person that is not able to filter that content? You were mentioning your experience before, and we talked about responsibility. We talked about the differences between what the individual can do, what the platform can do. what do you think are the main elements of a safe social media or online in general, safe online environments? If we would have to imagine how this space could look like, how would it look like to you?
I think it would definitely include people that can moderate the content. It would include definitely like an agreement between the person using the social media platform and the platform itself to be respectful, and between the people using it. I think, you know, the terms and conditions when you sign up to social media accounts, I think they should be a lot clearer, and I don't think it should be this long page of really small writing. I think it should be bullet points. I think it should be clear, precise, and I think we should all know what's expected of us. I think we should all know how to stay safe, and I think it should be like, I think one idea I've just had literally just now is like, you could, when you sign up to go on a social media, for example TikTok, you should get like a video or a slideshow or something to say, here's the key points on how to stay safe, and to make the algorithm something that works for you. Because I know with TikTok I barely use it anymore because I do find it scary as well. It
Yeah.
is really scary, the amount of weird stuff that comes up on there, and I think everyone should know how to keep themselves safe, and I think it should be clearer from the platform's perspective, because they should be showing us how to keep ourselves safe. Because ultimately I don't know as much about social media as the people who create it, so I think they should be the ones that are really sharing their insight. And there was that documentary on Netflix about the Social Network or something, I think it's called. And like, even the people that create Facebook, they don't allow their kids to be on it. They're not on it themselves. So it's like, why are they pushing us to be on it so much, you know? And I think we do unfortunately live in a capitalist society, and I think we need to just be kinder to each other. And I think those expectations of what you should be like online, and what um what how you should treat other people, and how the platform should be treating you, like with the targeted advertising. You should be able to choose right from the start whether you want targeted advertising, whether you want your privacy to be public or private. You should be able to choose all these things very early on. And I know privacy is getting a bit better at, like, more recently, but I think there's a lot more the platforms can do. And just us as a society, like, I think there should be better education around it, not just for the people using it, but like educational settings. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot we can do better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I really like when you mentioned the fact that terms and conditions should be clear of what's expected, of, you know, what the platform does, how to keep yourself safe, how to keep others safe as well, because we
Yeah.
are a community, right? So like we also have responsibility for each other. And I do believe that having something that is more accessible, that is clearer for everybody, would definitely at least make people think about what they're about to do and in which kind of space they're about to enter. So thank you very much for raising that point. And as we had towards the end, because we wanted to keep this event quite short, about half an hour, we have a question that I'd like to ask you that it's quite I think it's quite important, which is how can we better help disabled queer people who are depending on caregivers? And I'd like to ask you, like, especially also in lens of online spaces. So how can the online space support queer disabled people who are not independent?
Um, that's a good question.
Yes, it's a very good one.
I think we can. I think it's important to ask for each other's pronouns and not to assume. And I think that's a really important thing for social media. And I think even if you are a cisgender person, I still think it's important to put your pronouns, because then it just creates that kind of like comfortable space for people to feel safe to put their pronouns. I also think, if like, as a queer disabled person myself, I think the internet is, it can be dangerous for us. And I think, you know, I don't really know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm thinking along the lines of
They were mentioning,
education.
if I can just jump in, they were mentioning especially like to protect their mental health on,
Yeah.
you know, online when maybe they live in an environment which is not as supportive, but at the same time they cannot live it because they're not independent.
Yeah, I think it's important to find your people online. Find people that are supportive, because online you can meet friends and you can meet people that can be supportive online. Like, so I'm part of a group at the moment called Chrysalis, and they have like different spaces on Discord servers for like different things, like such as they have the venting bubble, and people often go there and talk about what's going on, and that can include issues with caregivers and being disabled and being queer. And I think it's important to have a safe space where you can talk openly, because talking about your feelings saves lives. You know, like, talking can save lives. And I think having that safe space to talk about whatever's going on for you, whether you're queer, disabled, independent or not, it doesn't it I think having that safe space online or in real life is so important, because like I say, like, talking can save lives. And I think getting other people's perspectives on how to stay safe can be important. I think it's important to, if you're in an online community and you can't, and you're dependent on like a caregiver, I think it's important to have clear communication as much as you can. And just, yeah, it's a hard question, I'm struggling to answer it, but I just think having that safe space to talk, no matter who you are, is really important. And finding a safe space that's inclusive and accessible is really important for people like me that are queer and disabled, like Chrysalis, or like any other peer support group. I think finding peer support groups is really important. Like, there are lots of peer support groups and online communities that can support people from different communities, and I just think it's good to find one that works for you. And yeah, just talk about your feelings, talk about what's going on for you. I don't want to be that person that says just reach out, because there's always someone there, because sometimes it's not like that, and sometimes it's not that easy. But
Totally.
I think there are really, sometimes hidden, but there are some amazing corners of the internet where you can find really good friends and really kind and approachable people. And I think I really encourage people to join Chrysalis if you're queer and disabled, because it's such a good community. And I know there are plenty of others like that, where you can just have a safe space to talk about whatever's going on for you. So just to summarize, talking can save lives, and please reach out. And I hate to say that because it's so cliche, but there are good people out there. So yeah.
Yeah, I know it's cliche and I feel the same, but I also think it's important to remind it to others, you know, because when we are in those moments, we do feel alone. But then when we have even just 1 second and we try that step, when we feel like, then it really can have a great impact. And I think you did answer the question in a great way, so no worries about that. But I do feel the difficulty of, like, you know, giving advice when you also have your own lived
Yeah.
experience, and you know that it's not as easy, but it's like quite complex and definitely not linear. I'd like to close this live by asking you a couple of very quick questions. Which is, and the first one is, why mental health matters to you?
Mental health matters to me because we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. It's part of who we are. We all can have bad days. We all can have good days. Whether you have a diagnosis of a mental health condition or not, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have good or bad mental health. And it's important that we all take steps to protect our mental health and make sure that we can thrive in our communities.
Yeah, in the meantime, Chrysalis is commenting, thank you, Nikki, we love you. And this is so true, talking can change everything. And you are changing the game right now, Nikki. I'm so happy to have you right now, really. This is an awesome talk. And okay, so I will close, thank you very much. I will close with going back to the European Mental Health Week, because this event was indeed part of the European Mental Health Week. And why is important for you, Nikki, that we have such a big European campaign about mental health. And I want to add, what did it mean to you to be part of it?
Yeah, it was amazing to be part of it. I love doing things where I share my experiences, and I try to be as open as I can and not just talk about myself, because I think there's so many different experiences out there, but it's been amazing to be part of it. And I think it's so important to have weeks like this where we can really shine a light on the realities for people and just give a spotlight to the fact that we all have mental health, and across Europe, across the globe, like, we all need to protect our mental health, and it's so important to just raise awareness of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much again for being here, for opening up with us. I really, really valued everything that you said. So thank you very much. This live will be saved on our account so people can go back and rewatch it. We will soon upload it also on our YouTube channel, so you will be able to watch it also over there. Thank you again, Nikki. Everybody, please take care, and see you soon tomorrow with the last online event of the European Mental Health Week. We will be on LinkedIn talking about precarious employment and unpaid internship and their effect and their impact on mental health. So I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you again, Nikki, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.